Hello. I want to thank you for coming to this particular program. I want to answer a question in this presentation. Someone contacted me and asked for me to help them improve their sermons. Periodically, I do some sermon consulting to help individuals improve their preaching, and this individual sent me a sermon and wanted me to help them improve this particular sermon. As I began to go through this sermon, I began to realize that the sermon exhibited many problems that are in a lot of sermons out there. And so I wanted to let you know the three things that I gave him to help him improve his sermons. These are three things to help him improve his sermons. And so I'm going to call this three suggestions to improve sermons. Three suggestions. The first one was this individual sermon was really more than one sermon. There were a number of sermons in there. I don't know how many, but it was more than one. And really to make sure that you present one sermon, you should have one main point. One main point. This individual had a number of main points. They were competing points. You never know which was the most important thing, which was the thing for you as a listener to remember. If you have one main point, it becomes clear what the people are to remember. It's also clear what to put in the sermon and what to leave out. You only leave in those things that are supportive of the one main point. And so the first thing that is going to improve most sermons is to have one main point. Don't throw in a piece of exegesis just because you found it and you thought it was interesting, even though it doesn't support your main point. Don't throw in a story that you have found just because you like the story or because it is an inspirational story or it is a powerful story. Save it until it is supportive of the one main point of a particular sermon that you are going to present. The next thing that I gave him, the next point, was a very related point, and that was to reduce the length of your sermon. Reduce the length. This individual had a sermon that was really an hour. Now, it was more than one point, but it also made it or produced a longer sermon. But also, even if it's one point, you should reduce the length. You don't want to, as it were, wear out the patience of the saints. You want to reduce the length, and what I normally say is 25 to 35 minutes. Now, this is a rough guideline. Some people preach longer than that. Some people preach shorter, although not much shorter than that. But the important point to make is that you do not want to preach longer than your people are listening. Really, to be honest with you, you should not preach any longer than your content, and you should not preach any longer than you are able to keep the attention of your people. So 25 to 35 minutes is a rough guideline. You may be a little longer than that, but as long as you have one main point and you are coming somewhere in there, then you're going to be all right on that end. Finally, the third thing is he didn't really end it well, and so I suggested that he end in celebration. You want to end in celebration. Don't just end any old kind of way. You want to end with a celebrating the main point that you have presented in your sermon. So a sermon is going to flow out like this. You're going to have one main point. You're going to have supportive points in the presentation of that one point. People are going to remember it. And then you're going to celebrate in the end the truth of that main point. So when people leave, they will remember the point. They will also remember the celebration of the point. I want to thank you for listening to this, and I encourage you to go to soulpreaching.com to find more resources just like this one. God bless you and keep on preaching.